judge, I have spent the last 4 years in court battling for my and my children's safety and a protection from domestic abuse, which has resulted in 371 excruciating days to date that my son has been unjustly and unlawfully withheld from his mother, whom he has been desperately asking for, and 225 days that my precious other 3 children have been asking and waiting to be returned to their mother. The law requires that my children be returned to me. I have spent every single day since March 18th, 2021, tirelessly working to advocate for my and my children's safety. I have cried and ached for them. We have been kept apart for birthdays and holidays. They have lost the sports that I coached for them, the programs I had them in, the special needs services I have always provided for them, their friends, and their family. Instead, I have rushed to hospitals looking for them. Justice Brogan from the Wisconsin Appellate Court stated, in addition to the costs Julie never would have incurred had the First Circuit Court simply followed the law, the grave hardship she suffered goes far beyond any dollar amount. In trying to right the wrong that would have not occurred if the domestic abuse custody and placement statutes had been followed, Julie lost precious time with her 4 children. This lost time is irreparable. She will never get that time back.
And I'll just add that in our society, the court system is supposed to be the great leveler. It's supposed to give us the equal playing field that we don't otherwise get in society. And in this case, that has failed. And so now it's time for the Supreme Court of our state to take action, not only for Ms. Valadez, but for other women who have been victims of abuse, who haven't gotten the justice that the statutes and the legislature intended. And I'll take any questions if you have any.
I guess, what do you guys expect to happen today?
Well, today is a status conference. I expect that the judge will set some deadlines for what's going to happen in the future in the case. However, we intend to take this battle to the Supreme Court so that they can lay down a broad-based rule that will affect the entire state in the way that was intended by the legislature when they passed these protection laws.
Ms. Valadez, I know you're doing this because you want your kids back, but do you really think about the far-reaching impact this could have?
Yes, it has been important to see that this case law that my case has set be something to help victims throughout the entire state. I have been appreciative for all of the support that I have had, including the article from ProPublica that has now gone across the country and honestly across the world. I have people reaching out to me every day, and the most common thing I hear is a message of me too, and your story is my story. This is its own pandemic, I believe, of crisis of domestic abuse, and these statutes and the upholding of these laws is extremely important for the safety of victims, honestly across the world. It's something the United Nations is also looking at to really protect the human right to safety and to freedom.
Was it surprising to you when you had people reaching out that this wasn't just you, this wasn't just a needle in a haystack?
Yeah, that's the emotions are probably hard to describe. In the beginning, I just couldn't have imagined that this would ever have happened. I tell survivors when I talk to them that to have some compassion for others when they're trying to understand, because I realize if it wasn't actually my experience, I would have a hard time understanding, and even going through it, it's hard to understand. It has been eye-opening to hear how many other women have said, me too. It's from a number of women here in Waukesha, across the state, and truly across the country and the world. So that's why I think it's important. Many victims are afraid to speak. I feel like in my circumstance, it became a necessity. The true safety of my children was at risk, and there was no option at that point but to speak up. And I've been grateful for Attorney Sultan and other attorneys in this case that have also taken that stand to speak up and to work to uphold the statutes. It's not easy for victims. They don't have the resources typically to have an attorney such as Attorney Sultan to really be able to fight the fight that's needed for domestic abuse victims. And so I'm very grateful for all of you for being here today. The awareness needs to be raised, and it's one on a national level at this point. With the reauthorization of the Violence Against Women Act, it has now included Cadence Law, which is specifically addressing what we're here for today, which is that children and victims of domestic abuse need to be protected in custody.
It's also important to keep in mind that the speaking up came at great cost to Ms. Valadez. She saw her rights to her children shrink. She was subjected to an order to go to jail. And so really, I think the court system, particularly the Supreme Court, needs to take a clear look at this case and say we cannot allow this to happen again. Because that's why people don't complain, because they're afraid of retaliation. I'm seeking a directive from the Supreme Court to direct the Circuit Court for Waukesha County to follow the law and give sole custody and primary placement to Ms. Valadez right now. I think they're good. That's why I'm here. Well, we gotta run in. There's security, so.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you everyone for doing that. I appreciate it. It is important for the citizens of Wisconsin to take action and contact the Wisconsin Supreme Court and urge them to intervene in the Waukesha County Courthouse in appellate number 22 AP 810, the emergency petition for intervention, to uphold and set a broad-based rule that the 2003 Wisconsin Legislative Act 130 that was designed by the Wisconsin legislature to protect victim rights in the courthouse, to protect victims of domestic abuse across Wisconsin, be upheld by the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Write a letter or make a phone call and urge the Wisconsin Supreme Court to intervene now.
Their biggest fear is losing custody of their children. It's a reality that they experience. It's something that they fear the most. And I think that what we're seeing today is a testament to what is a reality for a lot of victims. And I think that, when a victim's, when their children are being removed from them unlawfully, it is definitely something that is it's very hard to watch, because we're seeing the loss of a parent being away from their children, and a victim that's fighting really hard to really bring back, be reunited with their children. It is the biggest fear. It's very real. But I think what we're seeing today is that when things don't go right in the court system, I think that what we're seeing today is that we are not taking into account the strength of a victim. And I think Julie does that. I think that we are underestimating the power of a parent. And she is doing everything that she can, like any person would, to fight, to protect their child and be with their child. And so, so I think it's something that we need to continue to do well in the state to make sure that we are at least doing the best that we can for victims of domestic violence in their children.
I think what stands out to somebody who I'm not as well versed in everything that's happened in this case, but the idea of the mother not having custody of her kids. I mean, typically, I don't know if technically is the right word, but we think that moms usually get the benefit of the doubt in these kinds of cases, and to see a mom not be able to have her kids, and not only are they going to the father, but the father also being an abuser as well. I mean, is this rare, or do you guys see this a lot?
I mean, it is something that we always have to consider when there are separations, when there are issues of divorce. Is custody of children become a powerful tool, for the perpetrator, and it continues to be a way of how they can continue to stay connected to the victim. And so the children is one tactic which perpetrators do use, and it's something that that we are always having to be prepared for with victims, to say what's the consideration and what we need to do to make sure that we are always trying to make sure that the victim and the children are always together.
So you've dealt with cases, not this
We
like
do
this,
see.
but
We do see. It's not uncommon to see that that perpetrators do continue to have the right to see their children and have contact with their children, and that is when, as victim services providers, we have to really work very closely with families around safety, emotional safety, because a lot of the times perpetrators will start to isolate the children against the parents and start to make them go against the parents and no longer want to be with that parent. And so there's a lot of emotional safety factors that we have to take into account for the child.
awesome. Well, good to see you again. Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't recognize you at first.